Welcome everyone who is friend for the agents, secret agents, and maybe it's secret movies and this kind of stuff. But of course, we will talking about the AI agents first. But let me start with some maybe after lunch breaker, or how can we call it? Because for this, let's say, presentation, it's I think quite important to know who is the guys on this picture. Somebody knows these guys? Who knows this? Who is it? Oh, 2, 3, how many people? 4. And you know also the movies, how it works. Was running also in the Czechoslovak TV, probably you know this, in the name of the professionals, don't, let's say, mismatch with the different approach about the policemen. And this quite old TV series was dedicated and, let's say, talk story about 2 agents, Body and Doyle, and their managing director or maybe orchestrator. Yeah, works fine. Some noise on the background, I don't know why. Maybe some, I don't know what is the problem. But anyway, this supervisor, or how we can call it, Major Cowley, some technical issue with sound, works typically like, for example, what we see in the AI agent world. That means, let's say, which work like orchestrator. And as you can understand, all these agents, like this Body and Doyle, they have some skills. They have skills to fight, they have skills to shoot, they have some tools like guns, you can see. But of course, our agent will have different tools, not this kind of stuff. But anyway, they have some skills, they have some autonomous actions, and they have some orchestrator, like managing director Cowley in this case. And very similar situation will be in AI, and it's an AI. If you remember, in previous years, we a lot of discussing about so-called REC solutions. That means solutions about the chatbots, which is able to chat with your private data. But now it's, let's say, different hype. People expect much more from AI. They expect that AI will act like autonomous agent, autonomous assistants. That means not only like the chatbot only, but really like another human, another team member with some manager which working together in some team, development team, testing team, or some team which trying to do something and solve some problems, solve some solution, create some solutions. And who knows what is the Cucumber and Gherkin? Oh, much more people. Perfect. Somebody knows that it's some also, let's say, well known from the salads, because it's more or less this kind of stuff. But maybe you know what is also different in the Cucumber and Gherkin from the vegetable perspective. Cucumber is standard, let's say, cucumber, what we know in our garden, and Gherkin is something which is pickled in the can. And what is interesting, because in the Slovak, Gherkin, that means we can translate it like nakladačka. And these guys also from CI5 have also skills to nakladačka, to punch somebody. That means there is some also similarity between the nakladačka and nakladačka. And this was the reason why I introduced this. And maybe last question for this after lunch breaker, who knows and played already games called so-called Doom. There is some, so many people, I am so pleased. Because this will be important for our, let's say, final slides. But a little bit start with tuning the vocabulary, because I think it's quite clear that there are many models or many AI solutions. LLM is just the part of this. That means large language model is just some small part of different type of generative AI models, because you already played maybe with some diffusers. That means models which take care about how to create some pictures, how to create some music or something different. And of course, there was many other type of the solutions like the variational autoencoder or this kind of stuff. But for this, specific agents, because we are speaking with native language, and we expect something which also speak with native language, and it's able to work with native language. That means let's understand this LLM like the CPU, which is programmed with the native language. And maybe this gives us to have possibility to understand it like the agent, that means like CPU, which cooperate with different, let's say, hardware or another software tools. And this is exactly the definition of AI agent. That means LLM model which is able to work with some tools, that means have some skills, have some system prompt, that means which define who are you, that means I am the Kavli, I am the body with this and this skill set. And when somebody asks me to give me some, let's say, result, and this result is subset of my skill set, that means I can do it. And I can cooperate in the team. That means we have before two agents, Body and Doyle, they can cooperate together, they can fight, they can punch. But in our perspective, we can have much more agents. That means agents which take care about maybe some issues, they can tell about some systems, monitoring some log from the CRM or ERP or whatever. They can provide some or release some invoices. They can do something which is relevant for them. For example, download some data, create some database, or create some data in the database, or select something. But be careful in this creating data because it's not can be very destructive. And this AI agent, we can understand like another human working in the member team. Maybe you know, maybe not. This is quite, I don't know, because I need to have free hands afterwards. Because I need to, let's say, code something. I don't know what is the problem. Why am I noising? Maybe somebody listening to me on the background, maybe some NSA. Because I'm talking about the agents, you know, that means some agent is somewhere maybe hidden here. And this is the noise probably, whatever. Somebody is listening, big brother. What I want to mention, it's relatively not old idea about these agents. Maybe you know, 2 years ago, there was some init release of so-called AutoGen Studio from the Microsoft, when Microsoft realized, but not only Microsoft, but also other companies, we really want to use this LLM like the assistant or like the agent. This was also maybe original idea also from OpenAI. Maybe you recognize this on maybe 2-3 years ago, when they started with the assistant and capability how to equip, for example, LLM system with a set of tools, and these LLMs can act more autonomously and can interoperate between each other. And they developed this kind of frameworks. The first one was AutoGen, more or less, but now and today we have much more, like the Crew AI or any other. Maybe you know this. And what I want to point out, they also provide some integration development environment, some ID for this, because in this case you can, with visual form, to create, let's say, some team, some solution team, represented with some instance of LLM, and with this LLM, with these agents, equipped with some tools, you can really solve some problems. And on the previous year of the OpenSlava, I mentioned something like this, multi-agent hacking tool, because before I was talking about the security aspects of the LLM, and I was quite successful to create this kind of hacking tool using several agents. That means I instruct and I create the personalities for these assistants, and I give them some access, some tools like the Nmap, maybe you know this from the Kali Linux and this kind of stuff, how they can try to, of course, in the ethical level, try to hack or create some penetration test. That means this is one aspect how you can use the AI assistant or agents in the software world or software or IT world. Another tool which is quite very interesting and quite mature, it's so-called Langflow agentic tool. Sorry, as you can see the really quite, I don't know what happens with sound. Okay. Okay, but okay, it definitely comes from this Madonna. But now will be somebody listening on this mic, I hope. I suppose. Okay, anyway, this length flow, maybe you know also this because it's also very interesting flow when you can, with some visual way, to plug in and mix together different types of activities, including agents. Now there are some, let's say, new standards, maybe you know, A2A, so-called, it's standard how agent can cooperate. These A2A protocols came from the Google. Maybe you heard about this. It's quite new standard, but very practical. That means you can define some skills about what agent is able to do. And using this so-called agent card, you can work and you can put this agent card in some common repository. It's very similar to microservices approach. Before was, let's say, you probably know this from the architecture perspective, microservices architecture, when you have some repository, when you can store your APIs or definition of APIs, and when somebody needs regarding from events or different kind of stuff, select proper API, use their functionality, and send maybe some results to another API. And this is very similar from to A2A. That means reading some agents cards, you are able to understand, okay, this agent is capable to do this and this. And you can select and automatically coordinate with your planner, like the Major Cowley. Okay, for this task and for this mission, I need you, you, and you. And you can cooperate together with somehow, with some, let's say, follow some chart or graph, or maybe another workflow which you can define somewhere. And this can be also possible in this length flow, maybe you know this. And there is also another standard, you probably know this, so-called MCP, Model Context Protocol, which give you the possibility to create tools like the standard API. You know probably from the Python Fast API framework. With the Fast API, you are able to create some APIs standardized with some GET, POST, or whatever. And there is some new library, quite new library in the Python, so-called Fast MCP. And with this Fast MCP, you are able to provide and expose your services, your functions, maybe from your database, your CRM system, or whatever, like the standard tool, which is completely understandable with the LLM. That means you don't need to provide any other API, like this open API definition. It's really context-aware protocol. That means LLMs or any other agents able to use these tools. Of course, if you allow this, you need to be authorized somehow, because we need to care about the security. But this gives you very complex value how to combine, that means combine agent together, create really multi-agent approach to solve your problem, and use the set of the tools with specific agents. That means this is the MCP. And please remember, I think these two things, like A2A and MCP, will definitely shape the future of the AI multi-agent approach. And part of the presentation will be how we can use, for example, this multi-agent approach in the software development lifecycle, not in all cycle. I will just demonstrate some small part, which is called testing. Why? Because in testing, you probably know two approaches. One is called BDD, so-called behavior development design, and another is called TDD. Sometimes confusing with DDT, but this is different. It's against insect. So-called TDD is quite, let's say, older, because you know this like the test-driven development. And you usually start creating some unit tests, and from this unit test you will create some facade or whatever afterwards. But from the project perspective, it's very important to know and be aware and try to use so-called BDD, that means by behavior defined development, because what's happened many times, when you just keep the developer to develop something, many times they mismatch with the, let's say, origin business definition or business requirements of the projects. And due to, in BDD, it's definition of three categories of people: business owner, tester, and developer. And these three guys, so-called three amigos, there is some, let's say, manifest which call it like three amigos. They're able to, with some standard language, because business user talk with standard language, he doesn't use any other specific programming language. He just specified, I need this, I don't know, invoice or whatever from the system. And they have usually some definition of how they want to react with their business objects. That means what they want to do with the business object, like the invoice or whatever, or some order or whatever. That means combine these three things very important to have it inside, because otherwise can happen. Your product will really mismatch with your original user requirements or business requirements. And what does it mean? It means some additional change request, or maybe some additional panels, or whatever what is covered in the project scope. That means in this pyramid, you can, let's say, join these two approaches, TDD and BDD. And because we talk and we said the business definition, it started and created in the native language, what is best to handle native language? LLM model. That means use this AI to handle these business requirements to drive this development, and to also do this, let's say, dirty works, which now it's done by developers when trying to understand, okay, what does it mean, this requirement? What does it mean, this scenario? What does it mean, this feature? How can I translate it in my classes or my functions? And maybe, not maybe, but really do it with this LLM approach. That means LLM help us to create at least maybe the skeleton of the objects, at least maybe the skeleton of the classes and some methods. Afterwards, of course, some checks and maybe some details implementation will be needed from the developer side. But anyway, this saves a lot of time and brings, let's say, more flexibility and productivity in this software development lifecycle. On the slide, you can see also HTTP links when you can, for example, follow these links, and you can read much more about how to approach this situation and how to combine BDD together with DDD. What does it mean for us? I have some small demonstration when I want to demonstrate how, for example, specifically for these two agents, Cucumber and Gherkin, we can use to create this BDD approach. You probably, somebody already raised up the hands, knows what is Cucumber, but for everybody, it's more or less framework which is able to handle some features definition and scenario definition and run it with some concrete class in specific language. I will have some implementation in the Java, but Cucumber run also in the Ruby, run also in the JavaScript. And automate this testing and create this testing scenario, understand this testing scenario and the features for running these tests. I create some small application. You can see the screenshot, but I will run in also, I hope, locally and live, which creating, according to this business definition and feature definition, related classes, implement these related classes in the specific language. In my case, it will be the Java, and can run it through this Cucumber framework like the official or standard test. That means we can see what happens afterwards. That means let me try to use it. Now maybe the Madonna will be useful for me. And or maybe I can handle it like this. Can you hear me? No? Yes, now. Okay. For this, let's say, first demo, I have standard Hello Cucumber demo from the repository about the Cucumber. When it's running through some builder, in my case it's Maven, but maybe Gradle or whatever. Anyway, standard way how to do it, how to work with this is define some scenarios. You see some scenarios like here, and scenario have some features. All this stuff it's defined with 3 words: given, when, then. That means I have given some circumstances or some conditions. And afterwards, I have some development. What's happened when, and what will be followed or outcome from this when, that means then. This definition can be handled with, let's say, native language. That means I can clearly understand what's happened when I have not successful login, what happens when, for example, I get some issue, or what happens when I need to release some invoice or whatever. And this cucumber just run this test. Of course, in this case, they are necessary to implement the Java classes. That means this is what I want to avoid using with my AI. That means agent will be completely able to create these classes, but just for illustration or demonstration, I run this project in the Cucumber in this case to see how it works with more common way or how it works until now without this AI. That means they run the definition, run the given when then scenarios in the defined classes, and run and also announce some, let's say, runs, failures, errors, and skip it. It's not such important, not such interesting in this case. But what we can do and what we can see, as I mentioned, there is some examples. That means scenarios and features. What happens? What is defined here? There is the, let's say, another from standard tutorial, nothing special. But what we, without this AI, we need to implement, it's so-called this kind of supporting classes and step definitions. And as you can see, of course, this is a simple example, but anyway, also for the simple example, there are enough work to do it with all this annotation and all these methods or functions which should be, let's say, return some value afterwards. Let's do it with a more smarter and clever way. That means use our AI assistant. I meanwhile create some application with this AI. I hope it's running. Should be here in, let's say, created in the Python with some Streamlit frameworks. And here I can, with my native language, even in the Slovak, for example, send some requirements. Okay, let's do it. When I failure with login, I would like to have email message. That means I will create some scenario with some features and generate and run test, yeah? Login, doesn't matter, maybe he understands. Let's work with this. You can see it's maybe some, you can see it's really alive. That means it's really alive. He creates some logic, and we can now see how he handled this problem. Maybe not logical steps. Okay, but anyway, I have scenario. User fails with logic. What does it mean? The user has a logic that can fail, but as you can see, there is quite interesting implementation. We have all this stuff. That means he really don't care about the sense of this situation, but he cares about the user requirements. Okay, user required, maybe some stupid user like me, this logic. Okay, but anyway, you see this like definition. That means you have all features, all scenarios. I did not write anything in this case. This was done by LLM. And LLM generated also following the Java step definitions, as you can see, as well as Gherkin features. That means I can download it. I have some output from the console. And I have some failure. That means probably they download some functions inside, but doesn't matter. For some demonstration, it works. And now maybe we can create not logic, but login. This completely changed the game. Okay, generate and run test again. And now you see, let's say, different scenarios according to the understanding from the LLM. That means he really understands about the login. That means he talked about some invalid credentials. This was not before. That means he really understands more or less the problem and behavior like the intelligent agent. That means help for this definition and maybe help the user expectation when some user some misspell like I did, for example, logic instead login. He can create complete scenarios, but with basic understanding of the scenario feature, you can very simple to, let's say, maybe to argue against the user, okay, but dear customer or dear client, you see your maybe the requests have not such, let's say, logic on the background, because you can see in the features, we have no success like, for example, with more better definition of your requirements. That means this is, let's say, a small demonstration of how we can use it in the test. Oh, I have not so much time. That means I have to be more fast because my second part will be dedicated to how to test and how to use it. AI also not testing or not test only some standard software development cycle, but test AI itself, because AI also generate problems and mistakes and errors many times, specifically, for example, with some hallucination and this kind of stuff. That means you need many time to measure how output from or outcome from the LLMs works. That means if it's really valid or not valid, it's hallucinated or not. Before I'm talking about the RAG assistants and chat which talk about or chat with private documents, that means your client, of course, and you will be, let's say, confident your LLM give you really relevant answers, not some hallucinations. And there are other possibility, or there are some possibility how to measure it, how to test it. Okay, let's start from beginning. And this is okay. I can maybe sit down and talk to this microphone. That is very important to understand how LLM works in this case. Why LLM hallucinate? Because LLM or AI is not truly intelligent. It's more or less probabilistic table, as I explained many times. It's more or less the Markov chain. That means depends from trained intelligent data, and intelligent data was produced with intelligent people. That means people produce this intelligent content. Is able with some probable definition and probabilistic definition to create, let's say, intelligent output, which pretend to be intelligent. But many can happen because it's probabilistic engine, and they have some parameters like the temperature, and other parameters like K-top, T-top, which sometimes manipulate with the probabilistic functions and definitions. For example, with temperature, you can create standard or transform standard Gaussian distribution, uniform distribution. That's mean practically in the uniform distribution, each other word is more or less with same probability equal to another. That means it's more hallucinating in this case. Can happen something like this, and this have very serious consequences. Of course, it can have very serious consequences regarding the regulatory and other stuff. Of course, reputations problems, and not last but not least, financial losses can happen afterwards. Maybe you know, for now, for example, some consulting company now need to return a lot of money to Austrian governance because they cause some problems with some generative AI solutions. Oops. Okay. And very crucial how to understand how LLM works is this picture. This picture is took from some video on YouTube, and this guy is very nicely and very, let's say, visual way to define what happens when you change a little bit context of the some simple word like the creature. For example, what happens with the vector in this multidimensional space when you put before some fluffy or blue? How you, for example, completely change the orientation of the context and the vector in such huge vector space. And this is very crucial to understand and know this, as I mentioned, because this is probabilistic table. And if you know this, you will be able to handle also the logic of the agents as well as using the tools and measure it with somehow. And be aware, many times the hallucination is not such stupid. That means it's not simple to recognize LLM is hallucinating. This is example also taken from the internet when some rack talking about some medical experiments and medical articles. And what you see in the inside, it's more or less the relevant answer, with except some small word on some small, let's say, very precise definition of some illness, which has nothing to do with this solution or this problem. And this can be very serious issue. For example, when somebody will be wrong in the diagnostic something specifically related to health and this kind of stuff. That means really be aware. Maybe sometimes text which is looking good can really contain some hallucination inside from the meaning, but not from the maybe standard explanation or standard speech text recognition. And there is some metrics how to evaluate it. You can use something from this. I have also some tests done with so-called deep eval test framework. Probably know this. It's also using to LLM to handle and try to find some good metrics and measure stuff from outcomes, which outcomes from, for example, this assistant or reg chatbots. How this can be automated? You can just create maybe Excel or whatever with some question, with an expected question, because usually, and you are not a domain expert. I mean, you don't know exactly how the answer should look like. And afterwards, there you have some several columns with some definition, like the similarity between the expected answer and generated answer. Some categories like the relevancy of the answer, faithfulness, whatever what you need in this case. You can measure with some standard way. And you can automate this. That means you can do 1,000 tests and really, let's say, see what is the problem. It's problem with the LLM, maybe try to different LLM. It's problem with your prompt, maybe try to change your prompt. That means you can really automate this with, also, of course, in multi-agent approach, as I mentioned before. There are some existing frameworks which also give you not only some testing approaches, but also some, let's say, telemetry approach. That means you can see from telemetry perspective, some business data or business KPIs, like how many costs or how many money I need to spend to test this, or let's say use this AI for this solution or not. But be aware, as I mentioned, it's a probabilistic table. There is some limits. It's a very smart tool, but he not understand what we are talking. He using some vector operation, like the dot operation between the scalars, some similarity like with the cosine, or maybe some other stuff. That means can happen, and probably will happen because people are lazy and people starting using ChatGPT much as I think it's expected and should be fine for many things. That means now maybe it works fine because it's trained on intelligent data, but when ChatGPT or other words will just create some more synthetic data and will be trained in next level with this synthetic data, all this intelligence will be diluted, as you see on the picture. That means this robot or stable diffuser was trained on the synthetic data and create some hallucination, not the real pictures. And maybe last things, because I have only 1 minute, what I want to mention and what I really appreciated, like the example, it's something which is related to what I asked on the beginning about the game Doom. You probably know the developers of the Doom. One from was a very genius guy, John Carmack from ID Software. And he develops something very specific, because when you're working with 3D environment, you need a lot of, let's say, graphic stuff. You need a lot of norms of the vectors. How you calculate this norm of vectors, like you can see on the screen, like the inversion of the square root of the vector. But division, and of course using some square root from the classical math library, it's quite slow. It's not so fast. They need much more. And he developed something like this. And okay, when you hear something like you can recognize it, like, for example, what was before. That means inversion of square root of the x. It's impossible from this. And this is genius of John Carmack, how they did it, using and handling with some, let's say, long and float definition. Because in this case, you can work with log, and we can use some manipulation with the long between the moving in the register from left side to right side. That means double size it or half size it, and something on the half, specifically with minus half in the log when using some exponent mantissa. It's simple to do it like the one divide root square from some x, and this is really how human brain solving the problems with understanding the nature of the problems. And this is the difference between current AI and real human AI. This will be my last message because time is up, and that means be aware. It's a smart tool, but not smart enough, and can maybe oversmart some lazy people, but not really intelligent people in this way. And this will be my final word about this Cucumber and Gherkin test agents. Time's up.
Thank you very much, actually. Thanks.